Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Vineland Board of Education August 9th combined meeting for the Vineland Public Schools. Roll call, Ms. Haley.
Ms. Acosta?
Here.
Ms. Cottaspati?
Present.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Here.
Mr. Holmes? Mr. Medio?
Here.
Ms. Rios?
Here.
Mr. Sobrana?
Present.
Mr. Boardley?
Present.
Mr. Jennings?
Present. I'd like to mention that Mr. Holmes did indeed get in touch with me and say he was unexpectedly called out of town. In compliance with the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law, commonly referred to as the Sunshine Law, the Vineland Board of Education has caused notice and posting of this meeting to be sent to the following, announcing time and place thereof, agenda, etc. The Daily Journal, SNJ Today, the Press of Atlantic City, Nuestra Comunidad, Visto Bueno, the clerk for the City of Vineland, and the Administrative Office Public Bulletin Board. Flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a resolution for executive session?
We do. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the City of Vineland School District will convene into executive session on Wednesday, August 9th, 2017, for the following reasons as outlined in NJSA 10:4-12. Discussion of the performance of the superintendent and any matters falling within the attorney-client privilege to the extent that confidentiality is required in order for the attorney to exercise his ethical duties as a lawyer.
Thank you, Ms. Haley. I see we have no special presentations tonight.
I think we need a motion.
So moved.
A motion for
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a motion.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes. And here we are with special presentations, none. And approval of minutes, July 12th, 2017, combined meeting, and July 24th, 2017, special meeting. Is there any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley.
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes. And report by the board solicitor?
None.
None. Thank you. And do we have any public comment, Ms. Haley, on agenda items?
I have not received any yellow sheets.
Is there anyone who would like to comment on agenda items? Seeing none, thank you. And Superintendent Mary Gruccio.
Okay, thank you. I would like to recommend discussion and approval of the following personnel items: retirements, resignations, terminations, leaves of absence, employment and transfers, student substitutes, extracurricular activities, and extracurricular summer work.
Questions, comments? Anyone? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of trips, district travel, and the fall athletic schedule.
Questions, comments, anyone? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottaspati?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of the first reading of the following bylaws, policies, and regulations. All that are listed are mandated changes. Policy Regulation 1240, 3221, 3222, 3223, 3224, 3240, 5610, and 5620, 8505, and 8550.
Questions or comments, anyone? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval to waive the time requirements for review according to policy 0131, bylaws and policies, and adopt the following policy so that it can be in place by September of 2017. This is a slight revision to the uniform policy 5511.2.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
It says revised, no vote needed on regulation.
Because
Mr.
it's a
DeSanto?
reg instead of a policy.
But we still vote on this?
Oh,
Okay, so we still
Yeah.
vote, on. Okay.
You're voting on the policy revision, not the
Okay.
reg.
Need on
Got
the
it.
regs.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Someone make a motion, I'm not sure.
We have a
So
motion and a
moved.
second.
He made the motion, I made the second.
Thank you. Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval to authorize the board secretary to enter into an affiliation agreement with the following colleges and universities for the 2017-18 school year for the placement of students for field internships, student teaching, practicum, and observations. They are the College of New Jersey, Cumberland County College, Fairleigh Dickinson, Grand Canyon, Rutgers University, Stockton University, and the University of Phoenix.
Questions or comments? I have a question. How does this all come about? Do we go out and solicit, or do they?
When we have students who are going to be doing practicum or student teaching and request Vineland, the schools that they are at send a contract to Nathan's office, and it's reviewed, and Bob reviews it, and then we
Just a correction,
Go
Mayor.
ahead.
Most of them, they sign our our standard policy.
Right, for
Yeah.
each school, right? But there are a variety of schools based on who's coming into the district. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Recommend discussion and approval regarding the memorandum of understanding between our JAG program and the Vineland Public Schools for the 2017-18 school year.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I recommend discussion and approval regarding the YMCA Achievement Gap Program for school participation. The agreement is between Cumberland Cape Atlantic YMCA and the following schools, which are Petway Elementary and Winslow Elementary School.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of a resolution declaring the district-owned property known as 625 East Plum Street, Block 3017, Lot 2, and 310 East Plum Street, Block 3012, Lot 20, are no longer needed for school purposes, and authorizing and directing the superintendent to apply for permission to sell these properties to the city of Vineland.
Questions or comments?
I have a couple questions. I'm sorry.
Kim?
When I was reviewing this, since we're selling the building and the grounds, I have a hypothetical question that's, if we tear a wall down in Landis, what is our contingency plan if, instead of getting into Landis, and I think it's like February, what happens to the administration if we can't get in until May? Will the city allow administration to stay at Plum Street that long? And the second part is, I know we budgeted for $450,000 for renovations. If they run into a problem, where will our additional monies be pulled? I think Ms. Haley was answering in another question, but I just kind of wanted to let the public know where this might be.
I can respond to the first question.
Okay, sure.
If the board approves this resolution tonight, there'll be an agreement of sale prepared by Mr. Tenetta and me. And what I would provide in the agreement is that the closing date shall take place when confirmed by the Board of Education, by the district, that we are ready to move. There's no urgency to the closing, so we certainly will not schedule the closing unless and until we know that the move to Landis is complete. Okay.
Okay, the second question is, as you stated, that we did budget $450,000, and later on in the agenda, you'll see a rejection of bids under 4.15, because the bids that we received came in higher than the 450. So because they're above our budget, we reject them. And then we went to Larry and said we need the whole bid revised. So also attached to the agenda is a list of revisions to get it down to an estimate of 450. We'll go out to bid again. So at this point, 450 is our number. I mean, there is no
Right, no,
extra.
I think more what I was saying was if there was like an emergency, like they went in and they found like asbestos, something that wasn't even thought about. And I'm only saying that as a hypothetical because that's something that future
Right.
boards are going to have to deal with if it happens. So where would the monies
Well, I
come
would
from?
say, just like with any construction project, once you get into it, sometimes things pop up. In most of our bids, there is a contingency built into it, like 10,000 or 20,000, it depends. But if it's above something like that, then we have to look at our budget and see if we can transfer money for it when the time
That's what I
comes.
thought, but
Okay.
I just thought maybe, the public might like to know too.
Yes.
Mr. Matteo?
What's 310 East Plum Street?
That's the portion of the parking lot across the street.
I guess I really don't want to know why 625 is across the street from 310, do I?
You figure that out, let me know.
And one other thing, when we sell this building, we'll have that standard provision in there that the city can't do anything with it that doesn't apply to public service, public use, and otherwise the building reverts back to the school board the same way we did with other buildings in the past.
Yeah, Mr. Medio recalls quite well. Back in the day, there was an agreement to, I think it was the
Park
Park
and East.
Avenue.
Avenue School.
And what happened is that the city wind up flipping the property and making money on it. The next two deals, I put in what is called a reverter. We gave, but in those circumstances, we sold it for $1. Now, I can certainly ask, or we can make this approval conditioned upon that, but that is really a subject of negotiation. You know, some people might say, well, we're giving you $450,000. That's not $1. So it isn't the same circumstance as if it were $1. But it's up to the board if you want to do it.
All right, we have time to think about putting that in and what have you.
Well, I don't know about the timing because that's up to administration on when they are. Dr. Gruccio is proposing this resolution tonight. This resolution does not have the contingency of the reverter clause as Mr. Medio suggested. But as I said, it's not usual in a situation where there is consideration for the property, not $1. We just didn't want to convey it for $1 and then have the city make profit on it. But if we sell it for $450, the question becomes, even if they sell it, they got to sell it for more than $450 in order to make a profit. I'll do whatever the board directs, but that has never been discussed in the negotiations, as I understand it, Doctor.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Mr. President,
Yes.
my memory isn't as good as Mr. Medio's. I mean, a price is what someone is willing to pay for something. How did we arrive at the figure of $450,000?
I was not involved in negotiations.
Right, we had talks with the city regarding, Wayne and I met with them several times regarding the property and if they had an interest in the property. The property was appraised, and any comps within the area, even on Landis Avenue, are nowhere near what they are willing to pay us. The ones on Landis Avenue that are going about the same size are going for around $350. So the price seems fair after we researched all of that. So the other thing is, because it's city property, for example, we don't own the entire parking lot. We own a portion of it. It used to be our playground when I taught here at Reber, and we would walk the students across the street, but we only own a piece of that. So if they wanted to, the city could take that from us. I mean, you know, they're working with us and trying to provide a situation where we all benefit from it. But in reality, if they wanted to just take the parking lot and leave us with the building, they could do that as well. So we've been trying to talk it out and make it a situation where we can help one another and nobody loses, including the taxpayer.
Thank you.
Okay?
May
Go
I
ahead.
supplement that?
Sure.
Because afterwards, I was consulted regarding the price and regarding whether this procedure is proper. First of all, the Title 18A allows the board to convey to the city any school property for nominal consideration. So theoretically, we could convey it for $1. So therefore, the fair market value of the property isn't really relevant in terms of submitting it for DOE approval, in my view. Another thing was that the appraisals were obtained in November and December when we went out and obtained appraisals for the various properties that we were selling, the vacant lots and all of that. And not one of the sales came anywhere near the appraisals that were done by the same appraiser. So it kind of questioned whether or not the appraisal was accurate. My experience, as I was telling administration, right now there's a building on Landis Avenue that is under contract for around $400,000. The highest property that I know in the past 10 years on Landis Avenue was the Kotak building, which was significantly renovated and incredibly attractive, and it's on Landis Avenue, and it went for $700 or so. And that was a completely remodeled building. How this building, in its obsolescence, even though it's in good condition for a 100-plus-year-old building, how it could possibly sell on Plum Street for $1 million is just incredible. So all of that came into play. Plus, we have fiber optic equipment that the city owns in this building, and I can't speak for Mr. Fry, but as I understand it, this fiber optic equipment is needed for district operations. We have another 2 years on, about a year and a half to 2 years on that lease. And we will continue to be able to use that fiber optic equipment to whatever extent we need it indefinitely with the city, because the city intends to take this building and convert it into offices. The other thing that was considered is that there is a public hue and cry that historic buildings should be maintained. You've heard it all about the building across from my office, for example, the Security Savings Bank building. If this building were to be bid out, not only is it questionable how much we would get, but of course the bidder would be buying it to demolish it and place something else here, so we'd lose the historic value of the building. So the whole idea about the $450,000, if we look at it after the fact of the negotiation, we have to consider all of those things. The value of not having to dismantle and move the fiber optic, the estimates are $100,000 to $200,000 just for that. So all these factors play into it, and I just wanted to let everybody know that when questions started to arise regarding the value, we then looked into it further, and this is what was discussed and concluded.
Great discussion and great questions. Thank you, everyone.
That's it.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottasbody?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Abstain.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I'd like to recommend discussion and approval of the preliminary budget transfers for the general, school-based, and ECBA budgets for June of 2017.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of the preliminary board secretary and treasurer reports for June of 2017.
Questions or comments, anyone? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the submission of the following grant application. For the fiscal year 2018, the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Improvement Act application. This will go to the Department of Education in the amount of $77,835 for July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Soprana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval to accept the following funding: the Coles Grant for Menny's Elementary School in the amount of $500, and the New Jersey Youth Corps Program, Department of Labor and Workforce Development, through the Vineland Public Schools in the amount of $400,000.
Questions or comments? Questions or comments, anyone? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Abstain.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of the following non-public aid amounts for the 2017-18 school year. Textbook aid in the amount of $25,966. Technology aid in the amount of $17,538. Security aid in the amount of $35,550. And nursing aid in the amount of $45,978.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide evaluation and determination eligibility services to students in non-public schools within Vineland city boundaries for the 17-18 school year.
Questions or comments?
Just another requirement.
For non-publics, we have to supply certain services. So you'll notice that items 4.6 through 4.10
10.
are all related to non-public schools.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide educational and related services through Chapter 192-193 funding to eligible students in our non-public schools within the City of Vineland boundaries for the 17-18 school year.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide special education and related services to students identified with disabilities between the ages of 3 and 21 years of age, attending non-public schools within the Vineland city boundaries for the 17-18 school year.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide a special education teacher to instruct a fourth-grade student identified with a disability who is attending a non-public school within the Vineland city boundaries for the 17-18 school year.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Catapult Learning LLC to provide nursing services to students in non-public schools within the Vineland city boundaries for the 17-18 school year.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the professional services agreement between the Vineland Board of Ed and Inspira Healthcare Occupational Health Services for employee or student physicals and drug screenings.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the tuition contract between Atlantic County Vocational School and the Vineland Board of Ed for one student in the amount of $9,621.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding a bus advertisement for Century Savings Bank for 1 year in the amount of $2,538.90.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Stain.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sabrana?
Yes, and thank you to Century Bank.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval of the following changes to the Vineland High School South Locker Room upgrades. Change order number 1, the design of the boys' locker room showers be modified to accommodate not just individual users but also sports teams with minimal change to the design. This request can be accommodated through the installation of multi-head shower units, additional floor drains, and an area of additional floor and wall tile. The total increase of this contract is the amount of $43,393.19.
Questions or comments?
Just have a comment. I want to thank Mrs. Haley for getting back to me so quickly with just a clarification of a question that I had asked her about this.
You're welcome.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cotespotty?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
I have a question. I guess this is really needed. Is the girls' locker room in the same condition, or does that need upgrades as well?
Mr. Weaver, would you happen to know?
Both of them are 1963 as far as the fixtures and the finishes. The girls' locker room, you don't have that large shower area like you have in the boys' locker room. But that certainly could use a total renovation also.
Is that being looked into a future project, just like? the
Yeah, every
boys?
year we're going to keep whittling away at the projects. We add them and continue to do the upgrades that need to be done with the facility. So, yeah, that one should be done for next year or the following, depending on the funding, whatever we could fit. But yeah, that should be done, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
And my vote is yes.
Mr. Soprano?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
I would like to recommend discussion and approval regarding the rejection of all bids pursuant to NJSA 18A:18A-22, received by PW number 15-1718 Landis Administration Building. The lowest bid exceeds the Board of Education's appropriation for the goods or services. Authorize revisions of specifications and re-advertisement of bid.
Questions or comments?
I have a question. What are the changes that we're going to make to get closer to the 450?
They're attached in your agenda. Most of them, and Ms. Haley, correct me if I'm wrong, most of them are the ceiling and floor issues, to continue with the floors that are there rather than replace them, and not to put the drop ceilings in, new ceilings. That's the majority of what you'll see listed, but it's all listed in your agenda. Is there anything I'm missing that's important?
The adjust partition to retain existing HVAC. Like you said, a lot of ceilings, a lot of flooring. More flooring, some lighting, more partitions, display case and storage cabinets.
So we're deleting everything.
Deleting.
Everything under deletes.
Yes, we're deleting things that maybe are not necessary, that we can just live with, or maybe can be done later, phased in at another time.
Mr. Medio?
I'd like to look at this at our next facilities meeting. Did we look at that before the specs were bid out? I don't think we did.
No.
Can we look at this and see if there's anything else that the board members would like to see changed, modified?
Yeah, I think we'll have to move up our meeting to accommodate that, but absolutely.
I certainly don't have a problem. I just want to mention that we're going to rebid this tomorrow, am I correct? Just so that we can get this project done time enough for us to move over there. So, I mean, it's up to you, but I'm just saying.
Well, how does this change the timeline as far as the work and the?
Well, it won't if the bid gets out right away and we can continue with the work. But if it doesn't, it'll push it back a couple of months.
And the date is what now?
February 1st.
I think at this point, the things that the board or the district is asking for is just renovation so you can move in there, right? It's not anything
Other
to.
things can be done over time, just like we did with the building that we're in right now. I mean, as long as it's, clean and we can move furniture in and be there, each year you can do another project, whether it's replace the ceiling or the floor or whatever. But by eliminating those things, it would bring us to an amount where we can move in and they're nothing that we can't work around.
Right. Do you have any recommendations that you'd like to see, Mr. Media?
No, I'd like to see what we're doing. I'm kind of curious why we were putting in all new ceilings and floors in the first place. I just think the board should have some input on this. This is a board project, and I'd like to look at it. And I'm not so sure that there's any time limit on February or March or April. I just think we should look at it, so if something comes up 6 months from now, I don't have to hear, how could you have approved that? Why are you spending that money? The same kind of things that we always hear all the time. If the facilities committee looks at it, maybe we can find some other places to cut money that we don't have to spend. If we're going to do these projects, as the superintendent said, I totally agree with her, do some of these things later. A lot of that can be done in-house, where our only true cost is materials, because we're already paying for the labor and the expertise and the workers.
Good points. Mr. Sobrano?
I have a question. Has any work been done on the building itself? Are we completely out of there?
Yes, we're out of there and the elevator's being installed.
And the elevator was funded from 16-17 money. So
Correct.
that doesn't have anything to do with this bid.
No.
And what's the status of that? Does anybody know? Wayne?
They're working on it right now.
And what's the ETA on that being finished? Giving you your extra steps tonight. Yeah, you need them.
The contract calls for a September completion on that. So
That
we're,
doesn't have anything to do with the rest of the renovations, right?
no, not really. I mean, we'd like to see the elevator in as soon as possible. It's going to help our end in terms of moving in. So the quicker it's done, it's going to be a benefit for us. But all the submittals have been submitted. They're approved. DCA approved it. They're demoing right now. Simon Levy's in there every day. So it's moving along pretty quick.
Thank you.
I don't know if you have
Yes.
to leave or not.
Okay.
So what's on this bid right now that we're rejecting, but eventually we're gonna rebid tomorrow? It's all stuff that the district can't do. It's items that have to be done by a professional, correct?
Well, here's the issue with using in-house labor over, contracting it out. It's all about the amount of time needed to get the job done. We could do a lot of things in-house in terms of our expertise. There's probably nothing in that scope of work that we can't do. The problem is we're limited on the resources. We only have so many employees. We're taking care of the other 18 buildings. There's always things coming up. So to commit staff to it permanently, it takes us quite a while to get things done.
So
So
the
this was agreed to go ahead and
Are you
source
seeing,
it,
you know
outsource
what
it.
items are gonna be removed from?
I haven't
this?
seen what's
Okay.
going to be removed yet.
Because then my follow-up question was gonna be, because they're removing some items to keep it at 450, can it be done in district so we don't have to keep, year by year setting money aside when we have, like, for instance, the girls' locker room to complete or other projects that may arise?
Yeah, I haven't had an opportunity to take a look at the list and the scope of work reduction. I talked to Larry briefly about it, and he said they were going to reduce. I think there's quite a bit that's being cut. I haven't seen that, but I'm sure.
When you and I spoke, I think a lot of it's stuff that we could do in-house,
yeah.
like painting and
Sure.
things like that. And it's attached in the agenda if you get a
Okay.
minute to review it. But
a
I
look
think
at it.
most of the things on there we can do in-house over time.
So we're-
The other things are things that you felt were larger projects. that
Right, so
needed
the
to be-
mechanical modifications we're outsourcing, wall installations, wall removal, they're the kind of things I assume in the original scope of work that are going to stay. Pretty much the minimum needed to get in there as far as moving. I assume that's what we're going to be doing.
Mr. President, I do suggest this goes to Buildings and Grounds Committee. Something
Okay.
like this it should be discussed
I think
within
we'll
the board
set
members.
something up in the next few days. We can do that, right?
Real quick, Mr. DeSanto, if we bid this out, can we do a change after the fact, after the buildings and grounds meet?
Okay, well, one thing that can be done, you're allowed to have a bid specification supplement, but that has to be issued 10 days prior to the bid opening. So I don't know what the timetable is, but I'm sure it's a rather reduced timetable. But one way it can be done is as by a supplement to the bid specifications. Another thing may be that if you place in the specifications that the board reserves the right to amend by deduction the scope of work, that change order process might be utilized, and that is like X percent of the total bid without having to go out. In other words, you can do the change order with the existing contractor within a certain percentage amount. But if you have to reserve it in your bid spec and have to say that you reserve the right to reduce the specification, the scope of the work and all that. That could be a couple of sentences, and I realize everything's all together, but I'm just answering your question. So that would give the Facilities Committee the opportunity to meet quickly and perhaps provide some input to administration.
Would that be suffice to everyone? They go out to bid and we add that in there and then we meet sometime in the next week to discuss?
What's the bid opening date,
Yeah.
Lee?
I'm not sure what the new date was set. I haven't seen that.
I have to look at what Larry put down there.
Was this ever discussed in committee or no? This,
No.
We discussed this several times.
We discussed certain aspects of it, yeah.
but not the whole specifics of what we have
The scope
before
of
us?
work.
No.
Scope of work.
Not necessarily, no.
Just a
More the
suggestion.
budget, anyway.
I would finalize the specs and then put it out to bid. That's just a suggestion I have, because I think you're going to do better with the contractors. You're going to have your pre-bid conference. They're going to know exactly what they're bidding on. If we do an amendment, that certainly can work, but I just think you're better off getting a solid scope of work put together.
I'm not
That's just
suggesting
a-
we should, I'm
yeah.
saying we can.
Sure.
It's up to the collective wisdom of this board.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
we don't have a deadline on this. So,
I do believe the city would like to get into this building, so we have asked if we could move from January to February, and they were agreeable. I just don't want to see us lose the sale of the building, because the sale is pretty much going to cover our costs to move over there. So, and you don't know what we're going to run into, so the sooner we can keep on track, I think the better we'll be. And you have met several times with Mr. Morigi and myself as well, walked through the building. I mean, I don't think there's anything extravagant taking place in there, other than maybe taking a wall down to make a large conference area, or putting a wall up for a secretary. Am I missing something?
No, that's pretty much it. And there's some mechanical modifications to the unit ventilators. So we have the IT piece, the electrical. There's some things that have to take place, but overall, it's pretty basic to move. Now, I think our buildings and grounds was set for August 24th.
Yes.
I'm looking at the ad that Larry put together for a revised bid, and it has bid opening on August 22nd. So I know, like, he wanted us to turn this around pretty quick in order to stay with the timeline. So he prepared the ad, and Denise sent it to the paper on hold, pretty much, to say it should go in on Friday. So we would have to contact them and say, pull it at this point. But right now, it was there in order to get it moving, and it was written up. Larry had written it.
So that would eliminate the one option about bid supplement, because we can't meet the 10-day requirement prior
that
to the bid
turnaround.
opening to amend the specification. So the only other possibility is a change order after the contract is awarded.
I have a question.
Kim has something.
What if, I understand it has to be the 10-day. What if we met next week sometime? It would only push it off like 5 or 6 days, and then it would just push that off. You know, we would just extend it by 5 or 6 days, but that would give us time to get our facilities group, together, and we can talk about it. But it's, I understand the city wants to get into this, but this hasn't been our fault that our bids, we're not getting the bids for the building because they're too high, so we have to do what's right for the district too, and make sure that what we're getting, the contractors are coming in and they're going to do what we need them to do.
And
for
I'm
a
sure the
price.
city will be willing to work with us, and I'm
Right.
sure Buildings and Grounds can set up
I think so,
a pretty
too.
quick
Right.
meeting.
Right, I'm only thinking of maybe like a 5 or 6 day delay. I'm not seeing where it's going to be real long.
We could piggyback off of CNT or transportation next week, and you have people here already, so.
transportation is the Tuesday.
Tuesday, CNT is Monday, so.
Transportation will be a little shorter, so maybe, we could pull 5 o'clock facilities.
But
That
again, it's the bid opening date that drives whether you could make any changes. So even moving the committee, if you don't move the bid opening date, then meeting the committee isn't going to do anything for you, because you can't change the specifications. They'll have to go out as they are.
It sounds like we're going to have to move everything a week, maybe a little less than a week. I mean,
The bidding's the 28th?
The 22nd.
And we have 10 days? You said?
Once you put it out there, if you're going to do an addendum, it has to be 10 days.
10 days, so you still have time.
can we push it ahead? I mean, this isn't in stone. I mean, we can push this ahead a few days. I mean, we're willing to meet
I mean, you
on a
can meet.
Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
The point is
Thursday.
that whenever you, again, I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just giving you your options. you probably need 12 days from the date of the committee in order to have a day or two to make the change, if you're making any, and have a 10-day window to give to the contractors. So you have to keep this in mind. If you're going to meet on a certain date, add 12 or 13 days to that date that the Facilities Committee is going to meet. And this board will have to empower or delegate to the committee the ability to tell administration. So you're going to have 4 people on a committee, and they're going to speak for the entire board because you're not going to have time to come back to the full board. So all of this has to be considered.
But you don't even have 10 days anyway, because if you can't meet until Tuesday, that's the 15th. So, and the bid opening's the 22nd.
That's what I'm saying, Helen. You've got to move the bid opening 13 days approximately from the 22nd. No, I'm sorry, when's the committee?
Or Friday.
The committee, they're saying Tuesday, possibly,
Which is what date?
15th.
Okay, so now you're talking about maybe the 28th of August would be 13 days later. That would be a safe bid opening date in the... What's that?
Mr. Weaver, are you available tomorrow?
Absolutely, yes.
Mr. Medio, you available tomorrow?
No, let me look.
If we can meet tomorrow, we can avoid all of this extensive.
That's what I said. You would have to meet today,
Mundane
either
work.
tomorrow or Friday. And as far as the board's concerned, we're getting this today anyway, so.
I can't do during the day. I mean, I can try, yeah.
4 o'clock?
That'd be
4 o'clock?
good, yes. 4
We'll meet
o'clock.
tomorrow, 4 o'clock, and iron this situation out.
We'll get a copy of the scope of work,
Right.
the drawings. We'll have everything there so we can review it as a comprehensive review. We'll get a copy from Larry.
Should we have Larry come?
Yeah, that would be a good idea. I was going to suggest that.
Okay.
Yes.
So right now, we leave the ad, like, I don't write to the paper and say, don't put it in there. Just don't mention
Is the
anything to
motion
them.
on the table?
Okay. All right.
Or bid rejection.
Yeah. Let me see where- Okay, and then we could do a follow-up motion. You could do a follow-up, you can adopt this motion, rejecting the bid and authorizing the re-advertisement, and then you can do a motion authorizing the Facilities Committee to recommend revisions, if any, to the scope of work, and then that'll leave it to the 3 or 4 of you to go ahead and do that. It'll be a second motion, okay?
Ms. Haley, where do we stand on 4.15?
Okay.
Motion second. You need a motion.
I need a motion.
Need a
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Okay, so Mr. DeSanto, we're going to have another one after this. Okay, all right. Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
The next motion would be a motion delegating to and authorizing the Facilities Committee to make revisions to the scope of work and directing administration to issue any supplemental changes to the scope of work.
I know, I suck.
Would that be 14.15A?
That'd be a good one.
A?
Hey,
Yeah.
it's a good letter. So is there questions or comments on that?
No,
Motion.
but thank you for changing
Yes.
everything.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Codispoti?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
No.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Sobrana?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Motion carries.
I recommend discussion and approval of the following Cumberland County Regional Cooperative Transportation Initiatives. A, joint agreement with Cumberland County Regional Cooperative and routes of Vineland 04 and Vineland 05 per diem amount $265. B, transportation addendum for the following routes: CJ's bus service, CS54 number 1, CJ's bus service CS1707 number 1, CJ's bus service CS1717 number 1, and BR Williams CS1726 number 2. And C, regular school year renewal routes for 2017-18.
Questions or comments? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottasbody?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios? Mr. Soprano?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes.
Discussion and approval authorizing the superintendent to apply for additional state assistance for $2,059,792, which represents a reduction to state aid for the fiscal year 2018. The revised budget reflection of the state aid reduction adopted by the Board of Ed on July 24, 2017, has below adequacy spending of $51,305,513, and the extraordinary special education aid has consistently been funded at less than 100%, causing an underfunding of $572,315. By reducing the state aid by $2,059,792 has added to the fiscal distress of our district, which has a 72% free and reduced lunch population and a rising special education expenses, but is trying to remain competitive with the nearby charter schools and vocational schools while dealing with a limited tax base due to poor economic conditions.
Questions or comments?
Just have a question. Once this is submitted to the state, how long before they have to respond to us?
Dealing with
This is all new territory, so we don't know.
Okay.
Any district that was, had reduced aid is permitted to file for an application for additional aid. So that's what we're doing. There's a lot of paperwork that goes with it. The paperwork is all due to be submitted by the 21st of August.
And do you think it would be helpful if parents wrote to their legislators?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I guess every little bit helps just to put us on the map.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
great, thanks.
Anyone else? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes, and thank you very much for the hard work on this.
Ms. Cottasbody?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Soprano?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes. Okay, there's nothing for the regular agenda. So we're going to ask for the approval of bills for June 2017. Questions or comments? Roll call, motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Haley?
Ms. Acosta?
Yes.
Ms. Cottasbody?
Yes.
Mr. Fiocchi?
Yes.
Mr. Medio?
Yes.
Ms. Rios?
Yes.
Mr. Soprano?
Yes.
Mr. Boardley?
Yes.
Mr. Jennings?
Yes. Any committee reports? Kim?
Well, curriculum and instruction are meeting on Monday. Transportation is meeting on Tuesday. I'm preschool liaison. We didn't have a meeting. We'll be having a meeting in October, but I did get an email from Ms. Monteleone as to National Night Out. They said it was heavily attended. They handed out over 500 books with information about the preschool program. And there's an open house with the preschools planned for August 15th from 11 to 12 and 5 to 6 so that parents can go visit the preschools. So if you know anybody, please, let them know to get them out there.
Thank you. Anyone else?
The Policy and Personnel meeting, sorry, it's been a long day. Policy and Personnel Committee met July 12th. The discussions we had, we discussed the school uniform policy, although we already passed the resolution this evening, but it's basically just allowing the high school students to wear gray along with the other approved colors, and also the school spirit items, like Mr. Boardley is wearing, that are sold in the school store that are collared, they can also be worn. Other than those two items, there's no further changes in the school uniform policy. Administration also worked with the unions to resolve employment issues related to, which resulted in positive outcomes for both the district and the employees. Human Resources is laying the preliminary groundworks for the upcoming union contracts. There was discussion regarding staff in the military and their service pay, and also the district pay. There was discussion regarding some non-tenured staff not returning. There was discussion regarding a nursing supervisor at the high school that would provide supervision to all the nurses. This would provide better monitoring and support for our nursing staff. And it would result in no additional cost for this position because there's a vacancy. There was also discussion regarding a supervisor, adding a supervisor to cover the cost of, or to cover testing, guidance, our homeless students, and transition of students from alternative school back into the high school. With the reduction of one counselor and the addition of a supervisor, that would be a cost savings to the district of $2,232. Also, Policy and Personnel also met today. We discussed, we had a local group, the group is called Bridges. It's an Immigration Action Committee. And there are local activist groups that requested and actually met several times with administration. They were seeking to support in the form of a school board resolution to help support undocumented families and the children in our schools. Mr. Frangipani and Mr. DeSantos drafted a resolution that was presented to the members. The resolution will support the rights of undocumented children and families. The resolution will help students feel safe in our schools. The district will uphold all the laws and regulations of our country, but ensure that the rights of the children to receive a public education is abided by. No student will be denied an education due to ethnicity or national origin, and copies of the resolution will be distributed to all the board members. As far as personnel, Dr. Rossi is working with local civil service on employee issues. There's a discussion regarding an employee who is requesting both his full school district pay as well as his full military pay while on duty. The district has offered to pay the difference between his military pay and the district pay in order to ensure that the employee is fully paid while serving. Between his military salary and a portion of the district salary, he will be maintained his full income while on active duty. A clerical and teaching position have been dropped due to budget reductions. All parties agreed. I'm sorry. All parties agreed that reasonable accommodations met an employee's need. However, the district was served with a lawsuit by this employee, so we'll be dealing with that. Dr. Rossi discussed recent resignations that caused a vacancy, and this resulted in a one-year contracted employee. A number of staff will receive one-year contracts, and this gives the district flexibility in light of potential future budget reductions if necessary. And that's it.
Sure that's it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so
when you get to it.
emergent items, if there's
Excuse
any-
me, Ms. Acosta. Mr. Medio's wearing a school spirit shirt as well.
Oh, I didn't, Mr. Medio is also wearing it. In fact, I think that we should all show our district spirit and purchase a school shirt
Gotta
and
go
wear
to
it
the
to the
Roost
next
store.
meeting. We have to go to the Roost store. Yes.
Brew store. Items proposed for review, I see none.
I have a question.
Do you have a
Is there
question?
old business, new business that we,
We're coming up to that.
where? It's
Are
not
we?
on there.
It's not on there because we have a combined meeting, but certainly at board member remarks, board members can mention old or new business. That'll be fine.
Okay.
Emergent items, which there was none that I saw. Opportunity for the public to address the board on any item. Ms. Miller? No. No, go ahead. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Come on.
Vicki Miller, Vineland. I have a question. The candidates running, do they know that they can't campaign on school property? Do they know that you can have ethic charges done for doing that? Do they know that if you're not being supported by any party, you have to, if you're going to be supported by a party, you have to declare it?
I think that's up to the elections board, correct?
Well, before they get in trouble, why not tell them?
I don't know what
We
they're
do
doing.
not advise
All right.
candidates, no.
The election is handled by the elections board.
And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Media.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, anyone else from the public? Seeing none. Kim, you have something to say?
These are my board member comments. It was my understanding, as well as from others who contacted me, that when we voted back in, I think it was April, to change the name of the North Building to the Tanner Building, the dedication would be sometime in the fall. Has there been any kind of progress on this dedication ceremony? I've asked before. I'm just trying, I know others are asking, and I can't give them an answer. I know what we said when we did the vote, and I know the soccer dedication is going to be in October. So there are people that are just interested.
We spoke with Donnie, and he said he was working on it, and he would get back to us. I haven't heard anything
Okay.
else.
All right. And the turf. The vote for the turf has taken place, it's done, but I don't think anyone, including myself, was against getting this turf. I think the main issue was how we were going to pay for it with the budget problems that we were just presented by losing the $2 million. Our football program has really taken off over the past couple of years. We have a great feeder program with the City Midget Football League, which continues to work with our youth and send awesome players to our high school. I know we've talked about fundraisers and donors to help with the cost. I've asked before, but why not in the spirit of shared services, can we ask the city for maybe some of that aid? It's helping our kids, and I'm just trying to help defray a little bit of our costs, but our midgets are using it, which is great. They're sending us great players, and just the shared services, could they help us, with any of it?
Asking anyone. for help.
Anyone.
But tomorrow,
Shared services would be nice with the city, though.
tomorrow we have the kickoff for the grant. Go ahead, Helen, take over. Are you done?
Yeah, I guess so. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.
Let Helen tell you. I don't know. Did you see the email?
No, I just got it.
No, different email.
that's a different
Okay.
email.
Tomorrow we have, as Chris said, our kickoff meeting with Grants Office LLC to talk about the NFL grassroots grant. So there's several of us internally that will be on the conference call. They sent us a long list of questions they wanted answered. So we give background on the district and our needs and so forth. So we sent that back to them already. Several people within the district will be on the conference call tomorrow, and I also sent the email out to our president and vice president to be in attendance, and they can fill you in or possibly include you, whatever. But yeah, tomorrow at 10 o'clock is the kickoff meeting, and they'll assign a grants writer to us and go forward. The way the grant works is there's a maximum of $250,000 that's available for renovations to turf. And then there's another $50,000 that's available for peripheral items. So we'll be talking about all that.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if we had started that, because I know when we were talking about the turf, that there was a grant from the NFL,
Right.
and I know Mr. Medio had mentioned that too, so I'm just kind of throwing it out there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that would help with 1 year worth of payments. The other thing with it,
Begins
it's
tonight, or
it's
tomorrow
only
night.
available to certain types of schools. Like, you have to be within a location of an NFL team, which we fit that requirement. The Philadelphia Eagles. And also, we'll plug there. And also, you have to be of a certain economic status, too, and we fit that. So,
I'm sorry, what was that other one? I missed
oh,
it.
but we have to be of a certain economic status, too.
We fit
So,
that one.
we fit that one, too. So, from the early standpoint, it looks good, but, we'll find out more tomorrow.
Thank you. Mr. Medio?
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Rios?
I just want to congratulate Mr. Medio on his sports recognition. I'm very proud of him, and it's a well-deserved award.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Ms.
congratulations, Mr. Medio.
Mr. Sabrana?
Nothing beyond that.
Thank you. Mr. Fiocchi?
Just 1 point, Ms. Haley, I'd like to change my vote on 3.1 from a yes to abstain.
3.1?
Yes. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Acosta?
I have nothing at this time, thank you.
Oh, you had your turn.
I had my turn. I'm usually last.
I'm sure you're going to speak enough for both of us, so I'll pass.
Me? I don't have very much to say.
But you do have something to say. So.
I do? Usually I do.
Imagine
No.
you do.
No, we went by you, right, Bobby? You're out. Okay. Dr. Gruccio?
I just want to congratulate the Vine and Pigtail All-Stars who ended up winning the World Series. We had a very successful golf tournament the other day with the Gridiron Club, and I want to congratulate Mr. Medio on receiving their distinguished award for his service to our community and to athletics. And I want to wish all of our students who just finished our summer programs well. It's hard to believe we're in the middle of August and we're going to be starting another school year. We didn't even get to enjoy summer yet, but anyhow, it's come very quickly. So I wish everyone a very nice end to their summer, and before you know it, we'll be starting a new year.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gruccio. I just have a couple things. Very good discussion tonight with that building. A lot of good things came out, and I just hope the taxpayers realize that we're all working in their best interest. Even if something doesn't change, at least we're going to take the time out. And Jeff, very good thought to push that meeting ahead. And I appreciate everyone's time and efforts to put all this together. And Mr. Medio, again, congratulations on that achievement award. And do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?